The movie begins in the small town of Harlow, Maine, where young Craig lives with his father, who has been in a constant low spirit since his wife passed away. They attend church together every Sunday, and Craig is frequently allowed to read the Bible to everyone. During one of those services, Mr. Harrigan, an antisocial billionaire, takes notice of Craig and later decides to visit him to make a job offer. Since his eyes are failing, he wants to hire Craig to read books to him. Although Craig is not sure why he was picked over other young people in the area who are smarter or better readers, he seizes the opportunity to earn some extra money. On his first day, he arrives at Mr. Harrigan's house and is greeted by the housekeeper Edna. Craig enters the house and enjoys looking around the mansion's magnificent rooms before he finds Mr. Harrigan, who is waiting for him. Craig then reads a book to him, and does some odd jobs like watering the flowers and shoveling the snow from the porch. One day he tries to open a locked closet, but Mr. Harrigan warns him as it's full of dark secrets, and therefore he isn't permitted to look inside. Craig soon starts to enjoy reading and intellectual conversations. When Craig asks if he reads anything when he is not there, Mr. Harrigan replies he reads newspapers to keep up with the financial report. Craig becomes increasingly interested in Harrigan's past as time goes on, so one afternoon he eventually caves and Googles about him. Craig discovers Harrigan used to be a businessman who was infamous for his hostile takeovers and ruthlessness. He never got married, had no children, and had no connection with his relatives. Since Craig is working for him, Harrigan sends him a card and a lottery ticket for every Valentine's Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Craig's birthday, but he never wins. 5 years have passed, and Craig has become a teenager and still working for Harrigan 3 times a week, and in all those 5 years, he only missed once when he got the flu. But Craig feels bad because their time together was the high point of Harrigan's week. Since Harlow doesn't have a high school, Craig has to take a bus to the nearest city to attend school every day. At school, he was shocked to learn they form gangs according to the phones they use, and all the popular kids use Apple. The most shocking part of his first day is when a bully named Kenny approaches him and demands that Craig shine his shoes in the restroom because that is a newbie's job. When Craig refuses, an argument breaks out, causing Ms. Hart to check on them, but Craig tells her everything is fine. But Kenny continues to threaten Craig with a hard time in the future. Craig returns home after school and doesn't mention the incident to his dad but asks for a phone instead, but he refuses. The following day, Craig visits Harrigan, asking him if he has ever been bullied or had somebody try to take advantage of him at work. Harrigan says he did and punished each of them harshly. After a few months pass, Craig receives 2 wonderful presents for Christmas. His father finally buys him a phone, and Harrigan's winning lottery ticket nets him $3,000. When Craig contacts Harrigan to thank him for the gift, Harrigan replies that it's only a small gesture he makes for each person he considers a friend. Since he has a phone, Craig can hang out with the popular kids and connect with a pretty girl he likes. Despite making new friends, he continues to visit Harrigan's, which leads him to question Craig about why he keeps coming when he can now have a social life. Craig responds that he doesn't come out of obligation but rather because he genuinely enjoys being with him, which causes Harrigan to become emotional. Later, Craig persuades his father to use some of the winnings from the lottery to purchase a phone for Harrigan instead of all of it going into his college fund. Harrigan refuses to take it as he fears getting addicted to it until Craig demonstrates to him how he can follow the stock market and the news in real time instead of waiting for the following day's newspaper. From that point, Craig started teaching Harrigan how to use the phone before he got into reading. Harrigan also selects a nickname, Pirate King, because that's what the newspapers call him, and he sets up his voicemail message. Harrigan's phone addiction worsens with time, and he occasionally ignores Craig's reading. When Harrigan needs an oxygen tank to sleep, Craig starts to worry a little and wonders why Harrigan has decided to live in a little town like Harlow, which leads Harrigan to admit he wants to live in a location where people don't ask things of him. In response, Craig says he would love to move to the big city to pursue a career as a screenwriter. Harrigan disagrees because enemies always stand in the way of that kind of business. He makes Craig swear that if he ever chooses that path, he'll dispatch any enemies with haste and without any guilt. Craig admires Harrigan's ability to hold power even in his weakened state. Still, he also feels bad for him after discovering a drawer full of lottery tickets, thinking he doesn't have too many friends. One day, Craig arrives at the mansion, and when Edna doesn't answer the door, he lets himself in to find Harrigan passed away on his chair while holding his phone. Suddenly Craig gets the call from him and discovers he was about to call him. It was disturbing for Craig. He calls his dad for help, crying before paying tribute to Harrigan's life with his favorite quote. Soon an ambulance and the police come to take care of everything. Craig returns home and realizes he also brought Harrigan's phone. Craig texts Harrigan a final goodbye saying he will miss their afternoons together. On the day of the funeral, Craig reads a few words from the Bible, before putting Harrigan's phone in his suit. Harrigan was buried close to Craig's mother. His father visits her every week, but Craig only visited her once because it makes him feel she is gone forever. Following the burial, the person in charge of Harrigan's finances hands Craig an envelope with a letter from Harrigan, stating what he has been left in his will. Even though Harrigan disagreed with Craig's career decision, he still wanted to help him, so he left him an $850,000 trust fund to pay for college and any postgraduate work he may choose, and the remaining for starting his career. The most shocking part is when Harrigan mentions he will miss their afternoons together too, which seems like a response to Craig's text message. Later that night, he leaves a message on Harrigan's voicemail, thanking him for the gift but also confessing that he would return it if he could see his friend again since he misses him. The following morning, when Craig wakes up, he discovers the creepiest message on his phone. Harrigan has texted him back, yet his response is merely a collection of meaningless letters. Fearing they may have buried Harrigan alive, Craig begs his father for assistance. However, his father clarifies that this is likely a prankster who cloned the number. Because a thorough autopsy was performed before the hospital released the body for the funeral, and Harrigan cannot be alive. Craig still finds this explanation insufficient, so he goes to the cemetery and makes a call to Harrigan, only to freak out once more when he hears the ringtone emanating from his grave. Later, Craig visits Harrigan's house and has tea with Edna. He learns Harrigan left her and the gardener some money. She also agrees that Harrigan was a good man, but he also has a bad side. For instance, the previous gardener stole from him, and Harrigan made him regret it, and she doesn't get into any details. Edna allows Craig to take something to remember Harrigan by, and Craig chooses one of Harrigan's favorite flowers. Soon after, Harrigan's house is put up for sale, and Edna is allowed to stay in the meantime to care for it. Craig returns to school and even enjoys his classes, particularly those taught by Ms. Hart, whom he considers as an incredible and supportive teacher. That evening, Craig finds Kenny selling pot on the campus and eventually gets expelled. Kenny thinks Craig ratted on him. Life gets easier for Craig, and he also attends the winter dance with his crush. However, the perfect night is ruined when Kenny returns to school to beat Craig up for ratting and threatens to kill him if he ever tells anyone about it. He is taken to Ms. Hart, who treats his wounds and suspects Kenny did it, but Craig denies it because he doesn't want any more trouble. When Craig returns home, he refuses to discuss what happened with his father, prompting him to talk to someone rather than hold in and repress. Out of desperation, he calls Harrigan and shares his experience in a voicemail, and he fears Kenny will come for him again. The following day, Craig learns Kenny has been found dead. When he sees Kenny's family in mourning, he realizes that even bullies have people who love them. Craig is overwhelmed with guilt, and it keeps him distracted during his lessons, so Ms. Hart talks to him after class to console him and tells him to stop blaming himself. Craig then brings up the subject of ghosts, and Ms. Hart admits she doesn't like to tangle with stuff like Ouija boards because her grandmother taught her that not all ghosts are holy. That evening, Craig visits a trailer park where Harrigan's old gardener used to live. His neighbor explained when it became impossible for him to find a new job after Harrigan fired him, the man ended things in his truck. Craig then goes to check the truck, only to be disappointed when he discovers a lottery ticket inside. Later that night, when Craig calls Harrigan's phone to ask if he was involved in Kenny's death, he wants him to send him. He receives a call from Harrigan and gets a strange message that leaves him confused. Craig tells everything to the local priest the next day, who agrees with Craig's father and believes the phone number was cloned for a prank. To make Craig feel less guilty, the priest tells Craig about Kenny's death. He'd been drinking a lot that night, and when he tried to sneak out of the house, he slipped on the roof and fell, assuring it was a tragic accident. However, they are unaware that Kenny's mouth is full of shoe polish. Craig decides to get rid of the phone and arrives at the store to get a new model. When Craig mentions strange texts, the salesman explains that the strange messages could have become lodged in the software, which they refer to as a ghost in the machine. He then sets up the new phone and transfers all the contacts. Craig then tries to call Harrigan, but it doesn't work, and he gets relieved. He returns home, puts the old phone in a box, and hides it in his closet. Craig eventually graduates from high school and is accepted to a university in Boston. Craig enjoys being surrounded by the subjects he is passionate about at university, but tragedy strikes again all too soon. One night, he receives devastating news from his father. Ms. Hart died in a car accident caused by a drunk driver named Dean Whitmore. Devastated, Craig returns home to attend Ms. Hart's funeral. Craig discovers Dean has a history of drunk driving arrests and no longer has his license. However, the trial ends in the most disappointing way possible as he evades jail again by promising to do rehab instead. This enrages Craig, who rushes back home and takes out his old phone. He calls Harrigan and requests Dean's death. The call is made in a rage, and he regrets calling Harrigan. He tries to continue his normal routine but can't stop feeling guilty about what he did and constantly searching Dean's name to see if he is okay. Craig's fear becomes real when he learns Dean was found dead in the rehab center and an investigation is underway. Craig drives to the rehab center, pretends to be a journalist, and bribes a nurse for some information. Dean is thought to have committed suicide because he was discovered in the shower with half a bar of soap down his throat, and shampoo was found in the autopsy, indicating that he swallowed it to help the soap pass. Craig is disturbed to discover that the soap was the same brand Ms. Hart used, and Dean's suicide note is Harrigan's favorite song. Craig has a nervous breakdown because he is now a murderer. He later visits Harrigan's mansion and opens his secret closet to find all the contents are nothing more than Harrigan's childhood memories, particularly those of his late mother. Craig believes Harrigan has always been as lonely as he is, which is why he keeps trying to contact him, so he pays a visit to Harrigan's grave and wonders if the messages were Harrigan's way of telling him to stop. After thanking Harrigan for everything and apologizing to his mother in tears, Craig runs to the town quarry, contemplating suicide. Thankfully, he sees the error of his ways and throws his old phone into the river instead, finally allowing Harrigan to rest in peace. Thank you for watching. To watch more videos like this, please subscribe.